As somebody who uses the internet to find decent quality, consistent, and hopefully at the very least semi-regular conversation with people around the world, I often find the whole "hi, how are you, what you up to" small talk to be the antithesis of what I'm looking for. It's very much anti-conversation in my opinion. Now, I know by saying this I've opened myself up to people trolling me by engaging me in this exact type of conversation, if you can even call it that, as a prank, but that's fine. That's just how the internet is. But to tell you the truth, I've always found it to be, first of all, it's incredibly bland, it's incredibly boring, and very often it comes from people who only talk to you when they're bored, which is the opposite of the kind of people I'm looking for. So I kind of associate it with people like this. Plus, these types of conversations never go anywhere, never go beyond the point of small talk. And quite a lot of times I've had this kind of conversation in my inbox and I've realised something. I thought to myself, hang on a minute, wasn't I talking to this person about something interesting a few days ago or a few weeks ago? So I'll scroll up and I'll see directly above their hi was a message that I sent them that was quite detailed that they never even responded to. So it's like, oh, thanks, my, decent attempt at chats means nothing to you, but I'm supposed to go all gooey-eyed because you said hi. Now, at worst, this type of small talk is like watching an alien trying to blend in with human beings by mimicking and imitating human behaviour. But I've also recently come to realise that it's actually quite insulting in a way. So, a few weeks ago I put up a video on this channel where I spoke about the type of conversation topics, or rather the type of conversations I like. And I briefly touched upon, how dull and boring I find this type of conversation to be. Hi, how are you, what you up to? But I never really elaborated on this, which is kind of what this video is for. Now, I use the internet to find people to talk to around the world, and it's a real nice thing, it's a real gem when you find people you can actually have a good conversation with, because then things can develop. Now, that could be what that development is, I don't know. It could just be that in 5 years' time we're still talking on the internet. But to me, that's a goal, that's something to look forward to, that's something to build up. But it only works if the conversation is good. But admittedly, most of the people that I have on social media are the small talk merchants. They are the people who will come by and engage me in this very dull, very depressing small talk. Now, I used to just go along with it. No, actually, let me rephrase that. I used to try and make something of it. I'd try and steer the conversation into something interesting. But then they'd get, called by the person they were waiting for, or they'd have something to do, which was fine. But then when they'd come back the next time, the conversation we were having wouldn't continue. It would be back to, hi, how are you, what you up to? So eventually I just gave up and I just started, just going along with these types of people. So they'd ask me what I was doing and I'd pretend to be interested in their daily lives. And I'd, tell them what I was up to, knowing full well that they weren't going to be interested either. Sometimes I'd even send like little audio messages with fictionalized versions of my day, like really exaggerated versions, because I knew full well they weren't actually going to listen to them. But then I started to speculate as to the psychology of people that engage in these types of conversations, and I began to realise what their intent was. They have such a high opinion of themselves and such a low opinion of me that they honestly believe that I'm just gagging for their scraps, and that's what that type of conversation topic is. There's also the fact as well that a lot of people believe, like me, that you can have good solid friendships on the internet, but they will expect huge amounts of effort from you. But when it's their turn to give some effort, they think they can just hand a sick note in, basically, say that they're busy, and that means that you're just going to sit there and, carry the friendship by yourself, carry on believing that the friendship even still exists. What I mean by this is they want to be able to disappear from your life for months on end. but they still expect you to be right where they left you when they come back because they told you that they were busy, or because, well, I technically never said that our friendship was over. You get people like this in the real world as well, not just the internet, but there seems to be a lot of people like that on the internet. And a lot of these people will occasionally engage you in this type of small talk just to show their face, just so they can tick a box that says, I've spoke to this person, now they can't say that I don't do anything for them. And I also began to realise as well that there's a lot of people that will try and cash in on these types of so-called conversations. They'll use them as currency. I've had people who have come to me asking for favours online, like quite unreasonable ones as well, and or at least quite undoable ones. And when I've said no to them, they've suddenly said, well, what about our friendship? I thought we were friends. What about all I've done for you? Or I'll post something they find offensive and it'll be, how can you say this? I thought we were friends. But then I'll look back and our chats literally, which are 100% of our association, are just hi, how are you, what are you up to, over and over again. Because they think to someone like me, and possibly you as well, I think we all have people that treat us this way, but they think that to people like us, we're so, dead inside, so empty, that we take these scraps, these handouts, these token gestures, as some sort of big, amazing thing that we now owe them for, which says an awful lot about how they view themselves and how they view us. Of course, they never quite explain what we get for the time that we gave them in those exact conversations. But anyway, this is the issue I have with small talk.